Some say, its hull is made of foil, but at least it shines in the sun. Unfortunately for today's hero, we are on the old nuclear winter map, where the sun never shows itself. Hello and welcome to the second part of the United Kingdom campaign. In this episode, you will witness how my fearless Corvette battle group will harass a fleet of destroyers, like a swarm of mosquitoes. After that, you'll experience yet another time-honored tradition among Air Force enthusiasts. Executing precise airstrikes against a frigate, while maneuvering to avoid any counterattacks from its AA defenses, rendering it completely helpless. This, and many more of my Imperial secrets, you'll find out in just a few minutes. Let's go back to the quiet times, when my forces are returning from their European conquest. I am making preparations for the invasion of Iceland by gathering my fleet into a single group and constructing an airfield on an island that will help me reach Iceland's homeland cities. The only new structure my opponent has built is a level 2 army base. Everything else remains unchanged. The only real threat is the level 3 naval base, which means my corvettes will have a tough time dealing with enemy ships. Over the past 3 days, I have built a level 2 airbase in Manchester, and started mobilizing strike fighters. Additionally, the 4th EAA is being mobilized in London. My total air force currently consists of 7 aircraft. As you can see, I haven't been wasting time during the time skip. Regarding research, while I was busy sleeping and working, I researched standard and naval strike fighters. I also upgraded my ASF to level 2, and it is now upgrading to level 3. At this stage, I have the necessary fighter setup to begin extensive force buildup. Now is the perfect time to start researching radar. To mobilize it, I have queued up the construction of a level 2 army base. In the rankings, Ukraine is right behind me. He seems to be a decent player, with a KD around 5. So far his constructions are not too impressive. All structures are now level 1, except for one army base, but I'll be keeping an eye on him. I have begun secretly moving corvettes towards Iceland. However, my attempt at secrecy failed, as the enemy spotted me with his fighters. Hopefully, he is offline and didn't notice anything. Additionally, I am transferring the Royal Air Force to the Danish island. With them, I can also take down the annoying fighter that is revealing my corvettes. Like a ninja, I slipped past the destroyers. 2 of them are positioned near the city of Hoofn and at least one is docked at the harbor. For naval combat, my battle group needs to stay in shallow waters, and the ideal spot for this is the coastal shelf along Iceland. That way, my corvettes will have the advantage of speed. The time has come to declare war. Like a true gentleman, I informed my opponent in advance through diplomatic channels, rather than rudely invading foreign territory without notice. However, my message wouldn't have arrived in time even with express delivery. But through express delivery, I swiftly bombed the city and struck the destroyer battle group at the same time. This will significantly ease the job for my corvettes, in case the enemy wakes up and attempts to resist. My fighter squadron is en route to intercept the enemy fighter squadron we spotted earlier, while my corvettes boldly charge at a much stronger opponent. As you can see, I'm approaching using rush, then pressing the stop button, and immediately retreating. This entire process takes less than a second. Given our difference in speed, the enemy doesn't have enough time to react. Before we go any further, it's important to mention that as of early February 2025, there is a bug that interferes with executing this maneuver. Let me explain what I mean. When I change my fleet's direction and press rush, the ships sail in the wrong direction for a few seconds before correcting their course. This means if I attack the enemy and try to retreat using rush, my ships will initially sail toward the enemy, instead of away from them. Thus, rush not only fails to assist in escaping, but actively hinders retreat, and increases the chance of taking a counterstrike. Until this bug is fixed, I recommend simply avoiding rush when retreating. There is another workaround. If you perform the same actions in the mobile version, the ships will immediately move in the correct direction after pressing rush. As the footage demonstrates, the ships are gliding flawlessly in the intended direction, executing maneuvers with the precision of a Swiss timepiece. Therefore, the mobile version works without problems. To summarize, my conclusion is until the bug is fixed, either use the mobile app for naval battles, or avoid using rush when retreating. With that out of the way, let's return to our nuclear campaign. Right now I'm maneuvering around the enemy fighter. My opponent is visible to me since my view range overlaps with his patrol radius, but at the same time I remain invisible to him. I waited for the perfect moment to enter his patrol circle, let him attack me first, and then finish him off using my own patrol. Let's move on to the next episode. I could of course give you a detailed report of how I sweatily fought against an AFK player with a KD ratio 15 times lower than mine. But instead let's quickly watch my corvettes and aircraft attacks without unnecessary explanations and read the comments where I invited people to mercilessly roast my strategies. I received one comment with 3 quotes. The first compares my playstyle to playing chess using only pawns. A great thought. Though I always get the impression that I'm the one playing against pawn-only players, who mostly rely on ground stacks, including tanks, and push in only one direction. The second quote is about pay-to-win units, while everyone else is running military think tanks. This is absolute truth. I always use elite units because they are little game changers, and of course, I'm delighted when my opponents don't have them. Speaking of elite units, let me share a useful trick with you. If you for example spot a level 4 airbase and suspect your opponent has a satellite, you can open the season leaderboard, go to history, select the relevant season, and check if the player has the season badge. In this case I'm looking for the name of a player who played as South Africa. He has the badge, but if he didn't, I could sleep peacefully. This method allows you to check if your opponents have access to any other seasonal units. It also works for units unlocked later. For instance, you can see that in first seasons, I didn't earn enough points, but I unlocked the units when they were available again. And the final quote is about how I'm conquering my Wi-Fi bandwidth by spamming endless waves of troops. That's also true. I usually build a lot of them to avoid resource idling, and I also recommend everyone do the same, so I can gain more experience on random maps. Thanks to the user JadenB1766 for the engagement. I look forward to more of your mockery, and please don't limit yourself. Also, please write in the comments whether you found this section funny. As for my battle with Iceland, I attacked all available targets with my aircraft, and finished off the rest with corvettes. It was not difficult because the enemy didn't take any countermeasures. And that's how my island campaign came to an end. 3 days have passed, and we are back on the continent, where I am invading Spain, the last remaining member of the coalition that surrounded me. During this period I not only cleared out Iceland, but also upgraded my strike fighters to level 3. And at this moment my radar is also being upgraded to 3rd level, as well as my ASF to level 4. Just like a watchful hawk I am keeping an eye on Ukraine's constructions. And I must confess, they are turning me into a frightened mouse. Ukraine has built infrastructure in his capital for mobilizing special forces. Additionally, a level 4 army base is under construction, along with 3 level 1 air bases. If my future opponent is building not just to scare me, things could get tough. Back to Spain. I attacked an infantry signature, which turned out to be a group of mercenaries. For my air force that's nothing more than a light snack for a single flight. A little later, I decided to check out a naval signature. It turned out to be a level 1 frigate. It's not the best target, but one my aircraft can handle. Later, I took fire from it. You might call this a misplay, but I'd argue it was a high skill maneuver that allowed me to determine exactly when anti-air fires in this match. Spain began retreating from our border, but that didn't save him. My strike fighter wing caught up with the infantry division and wiped it out. Now a much more interesting target awaits my air minions. Of course I'm talking about the frigate. Some believe that frigates are an unbeatable enemy for air forces. However, for the fighter stacks I use, even a battle group of 5 frigates is a target that can be eliminated in just 1 or 2 air raids, if I have of course at least 5 or 6 stacks. The second strike was the frigate's last. With the frigate sunk, I can now shift my attention to the remaining ground forces. I decided to scout Saragossa and ended up eliminating an unlucky Spanish minion there. After that, I flew a bit further toward Madrid, and my radar picked up a ground signature. Without delaying, I paid it a visit using my patrol zone. It turned out to be a recon division, another easy target for my star destroyers. 14 hours later, Madrid was under my control. Wasting no time, I dived into researching special forces. After that, I planned to research elite spec ops to counter Ukraine's attacks. 11 hours later, I spotted Norwegian ground troops near Gibraltar. Shortly after, he messaged me stating that he and Sweden were planning to attack Ukraine together, and asked me not to interfere. Considering that Sweden was not only actively engaging in diplomacy with Iceberg, but also trading with it, I figured their coalition was capable of anything. Unfortunately for them, they only suffered massive losses. I'll go over that in the next part. My next research will be Naval ASF Level 2. Additionally, I have already researched mobile anti-air. To wrap up this episode, Spain decided to pay me a visit with his frigate, but it was swiftly taken down by my corvettes and aircraft. Apologies for the lack of action in this episode, because this campaign wasn't packed with battles. However, in the next part you will certainly witness the kind of traditional multi-front battles our videos are known for. See you soon.